problem, systemic almost, but as well as a complete misdiagnosis of economics.
Yes.
You take power. How are you going to create jobs?
The fundamental approach to job creation in South Africa has to be massive protected industrial expansion. So in the founding manifesto of the EFF, it says as one of the cardinal pillars that we must pursue massive protected industrial expansion to create millions of jobs.
Sustain.
That is actually like the one of the Justin Lin, one of the economists, he says that the only way to have a country like to have proper wealth and to be stable is through industrialization. And then of course he gives an exception to the oil-rich countries in the Emirates and the Arab world. And we have to pursue industrialization. It's not too late to could pursue massive industrialization. We still have to go through the second industrial revolution much more meaningfully in South Africa. Yeah, much more meaningfully. So that we produce our own things. I mean, like, we import virtually all consumer goods and products in South Africa. The clothes that we wear, the electronics, the household electronics that we utilize at home, the iron, the kettle, the microwave, the stoves, the furniture that we utilize in our households, almost all of it is imported. The building materials that are bringing, the lights, the light bulbs, everything else they like.
So
it's way too much.
The Industrial Revolution was electricity because the first one is the steam engine.
Yes.
So we still need to do those things.
We still need to undergo a full-scale second industrial revolution. That is one of the things that we have to pay attention to. And we must never fall into the trap that now we have passed the phase of the the second industrial revolution. No, we haven't. We still need to industrialize. We need, by the way, and it's not just the consumer goods and products. We still need to build industries, factories to manufacture cars, like automobiles. Like, I don't understand how we inherited a very capable state company called Denel, which manufactures fighter jets and military vehicles. And we have not utilized that capacity to build civilian vehicles, cars, buses, and ambulances that are needed for daily use by our people. And even just with the South African market, you can sustain a very huge industry to produce automobiles. Just how many cars does government own? Just how many police vans are there? Just how many cars do municipalities own? Just how many cars are utilized by these councillors, ministers, MMCs, premiers, and all of those? If we had built an industrial internal capacity, of course, in the beginning, like it happens with all industries, there will be trial and errors and everything else there. I mean, like it took Toyota many years to gain traction, yes. But Toyota currently produces 10 million cars every year. So we have to pursue that and in a manner that is economically sustainable. And we
Toyota
must be
is not
unapologetic.
from the West. That's important to mention.
Toyota is from Japan.
It's
It's Japanese, and it got to dominate the global market in terms of the production of automobiles. When it started, it was a laughing stock in the West. They were saying this car will never be sustainable.
So what are the immediate industrial objectives of the EFF? Which industries will the EFF generate jobs out of?
So the immediate areas and sectors that the EFF government will focus on is on the aspects which government needs every day. Let's start with food. We import a lot of food unnecessarily. Like, so once we've given land to our people, we then source all the food which the state consumes from local producers. It doesn't take forever to produce food. I mean, to grow a cabbage is 3 months. Like a variety of vegetables that are utilized, carrots, beetroots, and all of those things are grown over a shorter period of time. And the state, we always say, is the single biggest buyer of food products. That is for school feeding schemes, for hospitals, for prisons, for government functions, for a variety of things. We still fundamentally need to utilize the buying power of the state to buy domestically. If you can say exclusively all the food that the state buys must be made here in South Africa, will go very far. Then we'll have to revive the textile sector. One will subsidize all the school uniforms. There's 14 million children in primary and high schools now who are required to wear uniform every day. If you build a textile industry to produce those uniforms domestically, school shoes, like, I mean, it's a huge industry. So, like,
to produce the dangari,
all of those.
tunic.
I mean, like, so
all the dangaris and the tunics and the school shoes are not from South
imagine,
Africa.
So imagine if every year you have to produce fresh 14 million school uniforms.
That's a lot of jobs.
It's a lot of jobs for our people, but also in the textile. Even half of it. And in the textile space as well. Remember that you still have the textile that is needed for hospitals, for clinics, for soldiers. You need the textile that is needed for police uniforms, for a variety of other things that for hospitals. Like, there are so many areas where all of those, whether it's uniforms, linen, and all of those. So those are the areas where, yes, and those are the areas which government has got the buying power.
Hotels, we haven't included.
We have not yet. We have not. We're talking about areas that the public sector and the public finances will be utilized to generate economic growth.
So the South African government buys these things from overseas.
They buy from middlemen who go and fetch from overseas. And by the way, like, there's this thing of the World Trade Organization that regulates trade and what can be imported and or not. And there's no law in the WTO regulation that regulates government expenditure. So we rightfully and correctly and logically have to utilize the state fiscal or financial capacity to generate meaningful economic activity for a lot of our people. We can actually mention a lot of things, like for schools as well. Like, outside of uniform, you have to speak about stationery. You have to speak about so many things. But you can create a lot of industrial activities that happen. And by the way, like, we speak about food, which the state must buy. It's not only just the food for consumption. The entire food economy chain must be included, including the manufacturing of plates, of spoons, of cups, of toothpick, of everything must be included in the localized production of all of those.
Serviettes.
That everything, all of those, if we then drive a policy agenda to domestically manufacture, we are going to create millions of jobs. So that is one of the easier components that we can internalize in terms of what happens. And of course, we can then move into electronics as well. Just how many cell phones do we have? Do we need? Just how many television sets do we need? And just now we have to digitize education. If we were to print or to produce tablets, instead of 5 textbooks for 5 subjects, you produce 1 tablet and then you put all the 5 textbooks here. And then if a learner is tired of reading, if they are failing, their eyes are failing them, they can press somewhere to listen to the book. And that technology we can do domestically to diversify the economy, and that creates jobs. So there are so many achievables which a decisive, courageous and bold government that the EFF will be is going to achieve in terms of how
basic things that the economy, like all the Vascoms don't come from South Africa.
Yeah.
But the plastic product is from here.
Actually, that is another anomaly as well, where you have, so as part of converting coal into liquid fuel, Sasol, which has got the unique technology as well, and is possibly one of the first in the world way to convert coal into liquid fuel. The byproduct of the conversion of coal into liquid fuel is the ingredient that makes plastic products. So plastic chairs, containers. What do you call it? Tupperware. Yeah, Tupperware. Just how many Tupperwares are there in each and every household? Yeah. Like, we have the primary ingredient.
People buy a Tupperware every day. They buy takeaway food.
Like this
plastic.
So
is everywhere.
So we can build massive industrial capacity, and in the manner in which industry is developed, is through lessons from those that have done it before. Like we say in another chapter of the manifesto that let's take 10,000 students to the rest of the world. Let's attract industrial investors, manufacturing investors who are going to make Tupperware here in South Africa. And then we learn from that. I mean, like we've had the assemblers of motor vehicles here from Ford, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, FAW, Toyota, and all of those things. For years, why haven't we adapted? Why haven't we learned something from that?
And do South African car.
And do South African car. Like, because we can be able to have the industrial inputs that are being assembled here, and then we assemble our own car in a manner that is much more sustainable.
One of the criticisms to this economic policy, import substitution, I think it's what it's called, maybe the idea that why buy or produce in South Africa when it's cheaper to produce it in China or Indonesia. How do you deal with that criticism?
So
it's a big answer that liberals give to the import substitution-based macroeconomic planning.
There's a different
globalization.
Yeah. Well, there's a different explanation to that. I think it's dealt with by the Cambridge now SOAS economist called Hajj Chen. He said that the liberal world, mostly the West, when they develop the economies up there, they then kick away the ladder that took them up. They say to you that it's not possible to do this. In the intervening period, of course, there will be